Good evening. Welcome to the May meeting. First, though, I'd like to remind you about a couple of important events coming up. One is an open house that we're having. This is on June the 4th from 3 to 6 p.m. And this is going to be, we're going to dedicate our PC Club workshop to the outgoing president, John Huber, and unveil a plaque there. So please come, we'd love to have you. And as a little enticement, we are having some refreshments, and I gotta say, they're not too bad. In fact, they're very good. And the following week, we have our PC Club annual picnic, and it's catered by Yolanda, which most of us know. It's going to be fried chicken, ribs, salads, and dessert, and all the trimmings, very good. So members are $25, non-members $35. And you can register online there at the pcclub.org, or you can come up to the PC workshop. So anyhow, space will be limited, so reserve your spot. And now it's time to introduce the speaker, Paul Ortiz. Now, Paul has worked in the community since March of 1980. Now, that must be a typo, I figure, because Paul is only about 40, I think. Anyhow, that's the way he looks. But in any case, he was promoted to general manager of Broadband Services 3 years ago in 2021. As general manager, he's responsible for the day-to-day operation of the broadband network, village television, advertising sales, and business development functions with West Coast Internet and other outside vendors. And by the way, I happen to know that he's kind of a jack of all trades, because I've seen him behind the camera in the up in the studio in TV6. So Paul does a little bit of everything. So anyhow, ladies and gentlemen, Paul Ortiz.
Well, thank you very much for having me this evening. How many of you were here last year? Oh, okay. Whoa, about a third of you. So I appreciate you all coming out again to see our presentation. Okay, so obviously this, what JR mentioned, that was what I am inside the gates. I've actually been here for a long time, and I don't know what you all were doing in 1980, but I was working over at the towers. So it's been an interesting career, and had many different responsibilities and functions with different departments. So it's been a pretty exciting career so far, 45 years. Wow. So how many of you remember this quote? Can anyone, can you guess what year this was? When? The 17-somethings? Something like that.
1899.
But just think, would anybody today make a statement like that? After all the things we've seen, right? This was in 1899. And he was actually in charge of patents. And honestly, it's kind of like a folklore. No one can really specify when he said that, but he's been attributed for that saying. But it's just amazing that, you know, that was what was thought in 1899. The interesting thing is that a century later, this community in 1996 and 97 built a fiber network in 1999, a century later. It's really quite amazing. The foresight for your community and the residents and directors to put fiber in the ground. Now, you probably read magazines and see on TV, fiber, like it's some new technology. You all did it 25 years ago. I don't know what's more popular, fiber or Taylor Swift right now. It's just everything you talk about.
We own the fiber. We own that.
You own the fiber.
Okay.
You just asked a good question. This is a dialogue, so if you have a question, I'd rather we just start talking about it. I don't need to sit and read slides to you. Y'all can read pretty well. And if you want this presentation, I'm happy to send it to anyone. So anyways, in 1999, if you weren't here for that experience, we dug up the streets, We cut the streets, we dug up all your yards and all your common area and put fiber in the ground. Now you're looking at some plastic reels. It's actually kind of rubber. It's called conduit. That's where all your fiber is. And the lucky part is that in '99, the summer of '99, we were in the trench with Pac Bell at the time. They wanted to put their network in because they're thinking, well, we're going to have to provide phone service. Who's going to use copper anymore, right? So we started putting their conduit in the ground, and about 20% of the way through, they decided they didn't want to pay for it anymore. So they didn't want to be in the deal. So we have spare, empty conduit throughout your community. This is when vendors and people in technology realize you have spare conduit running throughout your network, they think we're really geniuses, because how could you think that, it's going to expand and it's foresight? It was just dumb luck. So this is what you have today. If you were here last year, this is your 1999 Toyota Camry, the most popular car in '99. And this is what your network is today. So this is old Betsy. We got it going one more year for those of you that were here last year. Transmission's still pretty bad. Tires could, be looked at. And the engine isn't nearly what it used to be. A lot has changed since '99. I see a lot of Teslas. I see a lot of Mustangs. I see a lot of nice vehicles in your community that no longer use this technology. This is your system. It's a hybrid fiber. So your fiber to the sidewalk and then coaxial cable that's in your home, that goes from the sidewalk into your home. So it's hybrid. It's fiber, backbone. We changed the frequencies and transmissions from light, which is fiber, to copper, which is radio frequencies. I'm not going to get into science, but then it gets TV to your house, and you also pick up the internet off of it as well. But you can see you have an aging infrastructure because it's been in the ground. We actually opened up a fiber vault about 3 months ago over by the towers in gate 10. The fiber in that vault was labeled 1995. So a lot of the fiber in your community, even though it was put in the ground probably in '99, it was probably 5 years before that. These are the pieces of equipment that are no longer supported anymore. And this is the interesting and the most important part. Fiber, if you're a tech person or science, you're reading reports now that there is no end of life for fiber right now. They really can't determine that. We were first told 25 to 30 years. Now they're saying fiber can last. They can't really determine it. And I always tell people, if you can tell me how long your Tesla battery is going to last, then I'll give you a guess as to how long our fiber is going to last. The problem is we have a lot of electronic components in your community that are no longer supported by the manufacturer. I mean, how many of you are using floppy disks still, right? These are all floppy disks. And we're still trying to keep it running and working in place with spares. We have a gentleman named Hank Deming that's been with us probably 30 years. He is Doc from Back to the Future. He can fix anything. He's old school TV repair guy. He's been able to help us with a lot of these electronics. So the fiber in the ground sounds like, oh, well, great, we can just fix that, right? No, it's all connected to components. So it'd be like having a shoestring connected to something and then trying to connect another shoestring to it. It's just not going to work, especially when we're pushing high data, video, in the internet. And this is all, again, done through light, through glass. Fiber, let me show you this. This is fiber, and it is like thinner than your hair. And this is 10 strands of fiber. And this is what all this data and all of this stuff is going to be, in the street and coming in your home. It's amazing. But it tells you how small it is. So anyways, what we did though is we recently replaced a bunch of backup batteries. Those are like giant car batteries. You'll see them in your neighborhood. They're like big cabinets. They're full of batteries. So when Edison comes over and knocks you out, then our backup batteries have to come on and keep the internet and keep television going. So that's been a very critical point. If we get to the next technology, this is a passive optical network Passive means what? Doesn't use electricity on the way. It uses electricity in the head end at Campo Verde, and basically your router cable modem is the next electrical component. It's the tin can, if we talked last year, and I've talked to other people. It's the tin can on a string, right? We got our chicken noodle here at Campo Verde, and you got your tomato soup here at the house, and you're just pushing data through it. The beauty about this architecture is that when my chicken noodle starts to go bad, we just replace it with new equipment. Your tomato soup goes bad, we just replace it. The fiber in the ground stays, it's the brains, right? It's the central nervous system. So we just keep everything the same. And this ONT, ONU, it depends what people call it, but basically it's your router and cable modem. It's going to talk to everything in your home. So that's the new technology. So when you hear other systems being built, they're talking about PON, passive optical network. And it's fiber. It's either fiber to the home. It's usually fiber to the home. I can get into other different ways they kind of split it, but it's fiber to the home. This is what we have so far. We have 52 miles of fiber that we would, go through conduit. So this is what this looks like if it's PON. Look how clean that is. It's just one fiber line to your house from us, and it's symmetrical. Right now, if you have West Coast Internet, you have speeds that go up that are slower, and then you have speeds that go down, right? Symmetrical means you're going to go fast this way and you're going to go fast that way. So that's one of the nice things about fiber. Symmetrical internet speeds. And it's point to point. This is the spare conduit I was telling you about. This is in your ground. So if you lived in, let's see, over by the clubhouse 3 yesterday, me and one of my techs, or our techs, were digging these out. And they're all over your community, which is great because that's the empty conduit. The one on the left, we believe, was from probably the crew that was here at the beginning of the project, and then as the project faded, they didn't cap them anymore. So now we have bugs and tree roots and water and all kinds of stuff going through it. We'll fix it. But again, these have been in the ground for over almost 25 years. And when I say in the ground, that means landscaping has thrown mulch over it, dirt, and guess what? People have built beautiful gardens and all kinds of things have happened. And we're trying to locate these things and try and dig them out without ruining the aesthetics of the property. So, but the beauty is 60% of any kind of build is labor to do this. So this is saving you millions and millions of dollars. So we just need to pull, you're just going to pull fiber through these empty tubes and get them to your house. It's going to be a lot easier than digging up those streets that we saw earlier. Again, that's the old network, HFC, Toyota Camry. I mean, we could drive it for a couple more years, and we will, and we could probably drive it 5 years, but sooner or later, one of you is going to have to come get us and pick us up on the side of the road. This is the future. This is a Toyota prototype. I'm not saying it's coming out next year, but this is the future. So you can see how we all can see how technology has changed dramatically, especially since COVID. That's the internet usage since the beginning of time. 1991, they even say August 6, 1991 was when the internet first started. I remember a friend of mine was into IT back then, which I had no idea what that meant back then, and he was talking about something called Yahoo. And I thought he was talking like some kind of milk or chocolate milk or something, and it was Yahoo, but you can see the growth of that as the years approach. They're saying, based on this report, 5.35 billion people are on the internet. There's 8 billion people on the planet. I mean, that's a lot of people, right? And you all use it for a number of different things. This is really this really represents what is in your home. You all have I loved how you answered the question earlier. How many had a smart phone? How many have used PC? A lot of you have PCs, Macs, and a smartphone and a tablet because you kept raising your hand up. Well, all those devices take up bandwidth. If you don't have good Wi-Fi and good bandwidth, all these devices slow down. And you're only as fast as your slowest component. So if your Wi-Fi is bad or your router is old, you're going to have a lot of issues. So these are the kind of things that are now coming into everyone's home. Yes, ma'am.
How do you know when to update your router and what do you update it to?
Usually, so West Coast Internet sold you that router, correct? Unless you went and bought it yourself. Okay, you're brave. I like that. I would too. I bought mine because I didn't want to pay Cox Communications $15 a month for the router. So if you bought a Cisco router, then you would know the warranty's 2 years. But then a lot of times you will just have to do like an update check with it, and you need to go to the website, have a registration, and do everything that so the warranty's in place too, and that way it'll come on. If you have a West Coast Internet router, it's called a Nighthawk, I believe, and they did sell it to you, and they'll warranty it for 2 years as well. You just call them and say, hey, I just want to update my router. If you question your router, if it's 5 years to 8 years old, it's probably time to get a new one. Prices have come down. Your Wi-Fi experience is going to be so much better because you're probably frustrated because you see the spinning wheel or it logs you off. That's usually your router is outdated, and for $180, it's better just to get yourself a router. Yes, sir.
Are the number of channels in a router indicative of quality, like a 16-channel router?
16's a lot. So what a lot of people do is you'll see a 2.5 gigahertz and sometimes a 5 gigahertz channel on your router. And some people will say, hey, I want my TV and my oven and this and that on a 5 gig router. So you have, like, say 5 devices on that channel. And then you could put the other 5 devices on the 2.5 if it works. 16 channels is a lot. And I don't even know, what you would do with all that. But what we're talking about with the new system is a gateway, and that gateway would have all your devices going into one router, one channel, and you'd be flying. So, but really you can split it up. So just put some devices on your 2.5 or whatever you might have, and then the next one's on your 5 gigahertz, and then that way not everybody's piling onto the same frequency. Give that a try. This I thought was very interesting from the AARP, I believe is this one I got it from. Everybody thinks that, I could live here too. Everybody thinks that we don't know anything about technology. You all are the fastest growing technology-based demographic. 89% of 50 plus, are using all these devices. And I'm telling you stuff that you already know. But look at this. This tells you you're right up there with the 18 and 29-year-olds. You're here 88%. That's pretty good, considering where we've come from. And I think a lot of it was, I don't have a slide for it, but we were all pushed into this because of COVID. We talked about Zoom earlier. How many now are using Zoom on a regular basis? You all are, right? Yeah. So I think that's really, it's like you better get on board, and we had a lot of time on our hands, so we had to figure it out. And Teledoc. So a lot of people are utilizing Teledoc, and I think it's still in the preseason. Eventually it'll be something that our generation and the younger generation will utilize on a regular basis. This is also an issue for your network. This is the cost of programming. So we all know, if you read the magazines or watch CNBC, all these media companies are getting in other people conglomerating together and charging more and more and more, and programming is very expensive. It's also very fragmented, right? What's your favorite show? What do people watch? NCIS or something like that? I mean, we used to watch, we'd go home, watch Happy Days, and then it's over, right? Now, my kids don't watch TV. They're all on their devices and they watch YouTube. And even now, you're not rushing home to go watch Friends on a Thursday night, because you either have a DVR or really you're just going to watch it on something else. But it's still very expensive. So this is what's happened to our programming landscape, right? So how many of you have Amazon Prime? That's a lot, at least 90% of you. Netflix. Yeah, you'd be the same demographic, the same people. A lot of this is going, as you know, to this platform. The cable industry is getting destroyed. It's like AM radio, right? Remember when AM radio was starting to fade, we were all, it can't. Well, it does. And cable is going the same way. And why? Because you and your children and your grandchildren are picking streaming platforms instead. And it's cheaper for some people, a lot cheaper. I had YouTube TV when they first came out, it was $35 a month. Now it's $75. I got rid of them 2 years ago. It just comes to a point like, I don't really watch that much TV. I don't need to be, have TV on demand. It's just, it's just economics at some point. And that was one of the interesting things I thought. Over 70 showed the highest increase of all these demographics. And I think a lot of it is too, is because we're home, right? And we're retired, and it's a nice way to entertain yourself. The other thing is Village Television. We have nearly 5,200 subscribers on Village Television now. On our YouTube channel, you can watch, if you're with the Cat Club or you're with Concerned Citizens or Republican Club or Democratic Club, you can go and watch all of these programs that we've had. So that's kind of nice to have. It's a little bit of VOD, video on demand. The other interesting thing is, because streaming is where we're going, because programming eventually is going to just cost you way too much money, or honestly, there's not going to be a Disney that's going to offer you all these channels. They're just going to say, no, take our streaming platform, or that's it. So Village Television has been testing their live stream, and you can go to the App Store, search Village Television, and you'll be able to watch the channel live on your device, wherever you are in the world. Even if you have a phone that does that, or a watch that does that, you can do that. Yes, sir?
How does Starstream fit into this whole picture?
Stars?
Starstream.
Starstream? You mean Starlink?
Yes, Starlink.
You talking about Elon?
Yes.
Oh, he's just making everybody mad. Starlink, well, 3 days ago, Starlink went down because of atmospheric issues. So if you don't know what Starlink is, it's Elon Musk is a satellite internet service. He's got satellites all over the planet. And it's for rural areas right now. They're using them in Ukraine, and they're using them all over these different places where you couldn't dig streets and bring fiber to these homes. It's still really slow. And if you have, well, it's faster, but again, you want to pay $1,000, I don't even know what it is, probably $1,000 a month for that service. But again, it's the only service you have in town, because if you have Spectrum or Comcast, you're not going to go and get Starlink. Amazon did the same thing, right? Amazon has just launched 13 satellites in the last year to do that. Well, I think that has a chance, because all of us have Amazon. We all become Amazon Prime members. We all like delivery and internet. But that's still not going to be the choice in the near future, or maybe even in the future. Because if you ever had, how many of you had DirecTV at one time? Yeah, what happened when it was raining or cloudy or windy? It was terrible. It's an environment. And honestly, cable is very similar to satellite. Satellite's actually beating cable. Satellite is gone. I mean, when was the last time you actually saw a satellite dish that worked? It don't. Dish Network's going bankrupt. DirecTV pushed everything to their streaming platform because satellite is going away. And I don't know if I would trust internet satellite unless you had to. This is what you have currently, correct? So how many of you have West Coast Internet GRF internet service? Yeah. And those that don't, what do you use? Cell service? Because 11,000 homes have internet service, so we're trying to figure out what are the other 1,000 people doing. So I figure it's maybe their cell service, the house might be vacant, you just don't know, maybe snowbirds in and out, but most of you are doing this.
They're cheating with their neighbors.
Oh, we found a guy, yeah, we found a guy that was using Clubhouse One because he lived right next door. So there's some of that. But these are the kind of speeds and prices that you are paying for today through West Coast Internet. This is just an analysis I did. We have low-end users, mid, and high. So if you just take the basic, HOA TV video package, you have no set-top box, no DVR, and you take one of the lowest speeds, you're only paying about $61 a month for video and internet. If you take one of the middle packages with West Coast Internet and our video services, you're paying about $86, and then the next one's $132. So if you have the 500 megabits and you have a TiVo in your house and you have the little TiVo QI3, then you're paying about $130 a month. And that's really how much you pay for video and internet. Ask your children how much they pay for internet and how much they pay for other things, and they'll tell you that you're getting a really good deal. And then, as you can see, this is comparable prices for comparable services right across the street. So if you live in Laguna Hills or any of those houses on Santa Maria, they're paying twice as much as you are. But again, that's the beauty of owning it, correct? So your community in 1999, a lot of nines going around. 1999, and then in 2019, they hired the Broadband Group. The Broadband Group is like the biggest and one of the most prestigious kind of a broadband tech industry consulting company around. They're actually in Las Vegas. They have offices in Irvine and other places throughout the country. They did an analysis for you called Cable Assessment and Business Case Scenarios. This was in 2020. And honestly, at the time, I think they were just trying to think, pay for things like buildings. What if they sold the cable system, and how much would it be worth? So they appraised it and came out after everything with about 15 million or something like that. So they gave them some scenarios. We sunset the plant, and that just means, look, we're just going to keep putting gas in it, and we're going to put some tires on it, and we'll just keep going until you all start complaining so much that it just dies. You can sell the cable system. I've seen 2, quote, negotiations with Cox Communications. They both fell through. You got lowballed completely. Luckily, you did not take that offer back then. You would have regretted it. You can do what you're doing, own, build, and operate a new network, and most likely a fiber network, because you don't really want to go backwards, right? Or you partner with a provider that does fiber, builds, and they're an ISP, and they run a business very similar to your community today. You're really partnering with West Coast Internet, right? They've been with us for 30-something years. So this is very similar. So you partner with, an ISP, an internet service provider, and then you would negotiate pricing and building a new network and things like that nature. The Broadband Ad Hoc Committee is researching these solutions for you. Staff, we're just telling you things are getting to the end. So we just kind of want to find solutions that will meet the needs of not only you, but more importantly, the people that come after you and after them. So we're just looking, we have a problem, what can we do about it? Can we kind of delay it? And we have for many years. and what are the solutions. So that's what we're doing as staff, and then it's up to the GRF and the committees to decide what direction we go through. Yes, Margaret?
Didn't we already go through this?
Yes, it was painful.
And we decided against that last option
Well,
because it was out of our control and it was going to be more and more expensive, and that's why we kept, we spent the money, I forget what year.
I
We
do.
spent a ton of money to improve,
So-
and we have to spend more money. Why wouldn't we do
Right.
that? So that we have control in-house of our system and we don't get stuck. Like, I got stuck when I lived in Vegas and my Cox bill was $179 a month for
Right.
basic.
right. So what she's referring to is that in 2009, there were some negotiations, and rather abruptly, in 2010, you had a company here from North Carolina. It was called Connection. They came in, said they're going to be your video, and they were doing digital television, telephones, and then and West Coast Internet was actually still the internet provider. This company just wanted to basically run the video and the phone service, and they actually thought they were going to make a lot of money on the phone service. Then they realized a lot of you call collect, and that was, it was 2010. Cellular phones weren't really as popular as they are now. They lasted 2 years and went bankrupt. They tried to actually do DirecTV in the community as well because they were a DirecTV reseller. So I can see the apprehension that some people would have if you were here in 2010 and 12, because it was a mess. And I believe that was just brought together too quickly, where now you have providers, and you can look them up all over South Orange County especially, that are doing this in communities all over the country. Because the Comcast, the Spectrums, and the Cox Communications are losing to what we used to call overbuilders, other companies that'll come in and provide the same service at a better price. And you'd rather have somebody, I'd rather be the big fish in the pond than be the same size fish in an ocean. And that way you get better service. So whoever, and you're going to partner again no matter what, because if you stay with West Coast Internet, you're going to also partner with them. So there'll be that contractual obligation. And again, it's all about negotiation, right? So if y'all were in business, you're all smart people that live in our community, it's all about negotiation and the contract language. So it's important that when the GRF decides, if they decide to go this route, that the language is this technology at this cost, with these increases, with this level of customer service, and this much education and community outreach. So those are the keys that we need to make sure that are a part of any kind of negotiation if we decide to go this route. But the biggest thing is to find out, okay, what would partners do for you? And that way you can compare them with, hey, if we owned it and operated, it's going to cost this much, or it's going to take this much effort. And if we partner, it would do this much effort. And if we just run it in the ground, it's going to be this much effort. Now we all can make a decision based on apples to apples to some extent.
I wondered if you wanted to make any comments about the Federal Communication Commissioner and her wanting to limit bulk discounting.
I'll make a comment regarding bulk discounting. It's really on the internet side, but it's so vague that the congressperson from Florida wants to eliminate bulk billing. We believe it's because of streaming, because right now if I'm Disney Plus, I have to knock on your door and say, please take us. And I have to knock on your days. And it's not like, hey, we all live in Laguna Woods, we're all taking it. And that's a bulk bill. So you have bulk bill arrangements right now with programmers, through the NCTC, your co-op. It's the Costco of programming that's barely making it. So I reached out to Congresswoman Young Kim. I always get that backwards. And she right away signed a bipartisan letter saying this is a bad idea. So there's going to be a struggle with that, and I don't think it's going to occur anytime soon. And honestly, right now, the internet is not a bulk bill for you. You all have to call West Coast Internet and subscribe. So it wouldn't affect you here. yet. But if one of these other partners say, hey, we'll do this and we're gonna bulk bill you and you're all gonna get a gig of service for $40. You're like, okay, we're signing up.
But doesn't it also cover like Cox and all that other stuff? It's not just the internet.
It's internet and video.
Video.
Yeah,
also.
absolutely. And you do have video bulk bill with the NCTC. So that's where you're going to feel it if it goes that route.
Item number C is terribly expensive. Why would you want to replace the current fiber network?
Because it's old. The current fiber network is connected to a bunch of old components. It's actually fused into old components. It would be like taking your old radio and then unwiring it and then trying to wire it into something else.
Replace the old components.
There aren't any. No one makes components anymore. These components I showed you 20 minutes ago are 25 years old. Like I said, go get yourself a floppy disk right now and see if you can put it in your computer. That's kind of what we're dealing with.
Back to me again.
Yes, ma'am.
So one of the big problems that residents are having in this community is a lack of information and a lack of knowledge. So if you're planning on discussing this further, are you also planning on letting the community know about meetings so we can go and listen?
Absolutely.
So we make sure that we don't lose what we have and we don't wind up bulking up our costs to maintain what we have.
Right.
This is a big concern. We just, as residents, we just keep getting dinged for more and more money. So this might be a great idea, but I think you need the backing of the community, not just the backing of GRF.
This won't happen unless we get the community behind us. So Debbie Dodson has been doing her show Tech Talk for 2 years now. Every month she talks about streaming and new technologies. That's an educational process that we're going through. And and even me speaking at the video club last year and the PC club and speaking to you all last year, it was basically the same topic. We're giving information as we have it available to us, and as this continues to grow, then you'll see town halls, you'll see more discussion in the mutual and the GRF meetings, and this process will start to move forward. But again, it's going to be a process that's going to involve every single resident in this community. It's just not going to be a couple hundred people that go to the PC club. It's 18,000 people that will be affected by internet and video. And I said it to someone the other day, if you moved in today, would you rather have your internet service lit and good to go, or would you rather have your TV working? If you're a new resident and you walked into your manor, what would you rather have? I want my water, I want my electricity, I want my internet to work. I can go without the TV for as long as I want to. So it's a very important amenity in your community. Yes, sir.
Paul, you plagiarized my next question.
Perfect.
I was, we're switching, like you say, from cable programming to streaming, as we go to there's a lot of creativity going into the next generation of possibilities of what is going to happen. What do you see? Do you see the PC and the Mac Club as playing an important role in that educational process to the community? Because it's not just PCs and Macs. We're talking about smart TVs and devices. Do you see them playing an important role in what's to need to happen to go forward?
Right. Oh, absolutely. We know that this is our group that we need to talk about. And honestly, if you don't buy into the technology, then your neighbor probably isn't going to either. But you also have to realize you have an infrastructure that's just getting older, and you have an internet contract that's expiring at the end of 26. So you're going to have to make a decision at some point, and even not making a decision is making a decision. So we're going to have, you know, this discussion over and over again for the next 6 months to a year, 9 months maybe, because sooner or later you're going to have to decide, okay, no, we're not going to build it because it's going to take 18 months to build this. So at some point someone needs to go, thanks, you know, we understand we were going to be stuck on the side of the road someday, but that's okay, we're going to take that chance. Or we're going to get a new car, or we're going to lease a new car.
Paul, I'd like to ask a question. If I understand that our cable expenses are going up for purchasing, you know, the amount of television that some residents watch. Can you talk a little bit
Sure.
about that? And you know, I'm just wondering how many people watch television
Right.
now, because I know I don't, and my neighbors don't.
Right.
We stream. So I don't know what sort of impact that will have as these costs go up and up to
Right.
get access.
Programming is very, very expensive. I don't think you all realize how much you're paying for ESPN and how many of you watch ESPN. Not very many. Sports programming is very, very expensive. So eventually you're just going to say, we can't afford it. I had a chart earlier. If you really looked at it, it's $6.1 million in programming, just programming, so that you guys can have all those channels. I personally wouldn't want my HOA to determine the cost and what content I want to watch. Like I said, I got rid of YouTube TV. I actually have an antenna. I get all my local stations. And if my wife wants Hulu or Apple TV, then I get that. And matter of fact, I like hockey. And I'm thinking, well, I can't watch hockey because I don't have TNT and I don't have TBS and I'm not on satellite or cable. It was on Max, and we got that for $4. If you find deals at Costco and wherever, you can buy these for $4 a month, $4.99. I watched hockey on Max, which used to be Cinemax and HBO. We'll find ways.
Hi. So I was listening to everything you were saying, and you probably answered the question I had, is from the moment we decide we want to go forward, how long it is going to take to wire and get things working. And you said 18 months.
We're hearing about 18 months to do a construction build of 13,000 homes. Plus we have facilities and clubhouses.
Okay. So the next part that I wanted to know is, we are at a point at considering to change our equipment, like the router and whatever, all those little gizmo gadgets. When are we going to reach that point to change over from the current status that we are in to the new? And will we need different equipment?
Yes.
Totally different.
That's what I talked about, the gateway, the ONU, the
Yeah.
optical network unit.
Yeah.
That will be installed by whoever builds this new network. They're going to put that in your home, and it's out of the way. And that is your router cable modem. And if this, you know, I would say 2 years from now, maybe a little bit sooner or longer.
So it's better to just hang tight
Yes.
and suffer the little delay.
Well, depends how bad it is, right? It's basically your tolerance.
My thing is not that bad.
Okay, yeah, I would just stick with it.
I'd like to know why the GRF or our other committees haven't brought this out in the open to the community to educate them and let them know ahead of time.
This is
to
it.
be proactive.
This is it. It has to come out sooner or later, and this is it.
It should have come out last year, and so people could talk about it.
We didn't have all the information in front of us, and the most important thing as staff is to do our homework and make sure that we have industry information and standards available to you. And as we get this information, we share it, and this was a perfect opportunity. And again, Debbie Dodson has been doing the same thing with her show for 2 years. And then we will, you know, you have to start sometime, right? So the video club, PC club, perfect opportunities. There'll be town halls as this discussion progresses. And a year ago, I would have just sat here and showed you some pictures, and I probably wouldn't told you a lot because we hadn't really done our homework and done all the research that we've been working on lately. And it's just, again, staff is here to provide, obviously, service, but if there are issues with your network, then we need to figure out a way to make it better for you. And that's what we're looking at, options. And the broadband group reports all told you that, look, you probably should look, 2020, we said you should look into this.
There's a federal grant program
Yeah.
from the Federal Communications Commissions. It's been going for 3 years, it's been awarded for another 5 years, called the Affordable Connectivity Program. They will award a family with a median income of 50%.
They just ended that program.
And I've been, but there's a roadblock. West Coast Internet is not participating, and West Coast is blocking other ISPs for participating in this program. So
No.
what is the administrative remedy?
The GRF owns the network. West Coast Internet is just your vendor, just like you have a tree trimming vendor now. That program has ended. They're not providing that affordable grant anymore. And then people do say, well, there's all these grants for all this money that the government is spending billions of dollars to build these networks. Well, those are to get to farm towns in Illinois and Montana and, you know, to really fix that digital divide. Orange County, California, South Orange County, California, not going to get grants of millions and billions of dollars to bring you internet service in a private community. So.
Could I ask you to explain to me now? We have a basic cable that's in our HOAs, you know, and if you, last year I remember explaining that we should be getting streaming packages because that's the way of the future, or
Correct.
something like that. So if you don't build anything, and what, would we still be getting a basic cable and we're not getting cable? Or what's going to happen?
Well,
What is our alternatives?
Your alternative is streaming, because before you didn't
But
have.
we'd be paying that streaming
Sure.
out of our own pockets, and we wouldn't be billed anything
Correct.
from you guys.
Correct.
That'll be the.
That's my
That's what's the
recommendation.
future.
Exactly.
Okay.
You know, you all like Disney Plus, or if you like ESPN Plus and that's all you watch, and your Roku TV and your Samsung TV now has hundreds and hundreds of channels. I mean, I can sit and watch TV all day long for free on my Roku. Roku just did a deal with Major League Baseball. They're going to show the games. I mean, that's the key to program is sports. If it wasn't for sports, nobody would have a lot of the Fox and Disney and CBS contracts that we have. So eventually it's like, hey, I don't have to pay GRF for programming anymore, so I'm going to use my $4.99 and I'm going to get a deal on this $5.99, and then I have these channels that I actually watch and like, instead of paying for all these ESPN channels that you don't even watch, or Disney Junior, or Disney Kids. You know, those are all part of the Disney package. They make you take, you know, all the channels.
Paul, are you working with an ad hoc advisory committee of residents to help you maneuver through this? I mean, this is a big,
Well, there you are.
this is huge.
This is huge. It's a big project. Yes, we have the Broadband Ad Hoc Committee that we've been having discussions and working with. A lot of it is very technical, obviously, but we're getting into the contractual discussions to some of it, but we have a GRF Broadband Ad Hoc Committee, and we've been working with the mutual directors within that committee to have these discussions and then slowly bring it out to you all as we start to, you know, understand how this process may go forward.
And then are you going to be the final negotiator, or are we going to bring in a professional? We can't even get our union contract negotiated, and we're doing it in-house, we're not getting anywhere.
Yeah, the broadband group has been instrumental in our discussions with networks. They do this all over the country for basically large cities. So we're going to ask for their assistance as we move forward and help us. And basically like having a lawyer, right? You want to make sure you're represented properly.
Paul, I was asked to ask you this question. What's going to happen to Channel 6 advertising revenue when people are streaming?
Well, first of all, Village Television doesn't really have advertising. Advertising is all done through your cable network. So when you see the dentist and Hogue and Memorial Care over and over on cable channels, that's different. That's on the cable networks. So as programming does whatever it does, then advertising is way ahead already. Cable network advertising is dying very quickly. All your advertisers, all your political people went to streaming formats and went to those roll-ins that you see on YouTube and you watch it for 4 seconds or you have to watch the whole thing. Those same advertisers that used to buy from us are now going to digital platforms because they know no one's watching cable TV. Cable TV is going away, and talk to your children, talk to your friends that live in other states and just say, are you guys watching cable TV? And I'd be curious to know their reaction.
All right, I want to take one more question. It's getting late, and this will be the last question.
Thank you for coming. I'm still confused, but I have a question. Assuming that we go through with this, and assuming we use your reference that it's going to take 2 years, does that mean that Gate 1 and Gate 11 get it at the same time? Or will Gate 1 have it and Gate 11 will be last?
I think you live at Gate 11, right?
You're a smart guy.
Well, I think it's interesting because Gate 11 would be the easiest place to start because they're all single-family homes. But we don't know, that it's all going to be really up to whoever, and if you do this, again, if you do this, I don't want you going back and saying, hey, we're doing this, something, and we're spending all this money. This is discussion. It's going to be up to the designer and the engineers and how to roll this out properly. Is it to go through the towers first and then maybe go into that Gate 10, Gate 11 area? It's really going to be up to them. They do this every day. They don't usually have such a dense, retirement community like this. They're usually single-family homes, and then apartments. It's hard to say.
And everybody gets it.
It's possible because we could be on the old network until that day where we have this big launch party and everybody gets turned on to the new network. I personally would just roll it out slowly so it's working. We learn what the issues might be and where the placement of the gateway is going to go. And if it's the single-family homes, then it's the single-family homes. There's not going to be, oh, the GRF president lives here in this area, so we're going to start here. Who knows?
All right, Paul, thank you very much.
Thank you. Let me, hey, I didn't show you this. This was your computer in 1984. That's from Radio Shack. This is what you have today. So this is my email address. Take a picture of it, or I have some cards here. So if you have other questions or comments, or if you want the deck, I'll be happy to send it to you. But thank you so much for staying up late for us, and then having us a part of this presentation. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, just a couple more comments here before you go. Don't forget the open house that's coming up on June the 4th and the picnic on June 11th, catered by Yolanda, fried chicken, ribs, salad. $25 members, $35 for guests. There will be no meetings in July or August. Our next meeting will be in September, and we're going to have genealogy using Family Search in September, tentatively, but that's getting fairly firm. So, thank you all for coming.